Okay, so if you saw my last video, you know that I just purchased a new camera. And in that video, I talked about the issues that come with upgrading from a crop sensor camera to a full frame camera. So in this video, I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to talk about the issues that come when you upgrade from a DSLR camera to a mirrorless camera. Which leads me to say the following. There are two kinds of photographers in this world. Those that have bought a mirrorless camera and those that are going to buy a mirrorless camera. So I say that tongue-in-cheek. However, mirrorless cameras no doubt have taken the market by storm. And it's most likely that if you are upgrading to a new camera, it is going to be a mirrorless camera. There are several brands now, and there's also a large number of lenses dedicated to mirrorless cameras, meaning that those new to photography are likely going to buy a mirrorless camera for the first time. So the issues that I want to talk about today have to do with the added costs of going from a DSLR to a mirrorless camera, and especially if you are going from a crop sensor camera to a full-frame mirrorless camera. And these added costs all have to do with the lenses. So if you are upgrading from an APS-C crop sensor DSLR to a full-frame mirrorless camera, you automatically are going to have two issues to deal with. The first issue is the crop versus full frame. I think you already understand the difference in a full-frame camera versus a cropped sensor camera. But did you know that the lenses differ as full frame versus crop as well? So what exactly is a crop lens? A crop lens is one that is dedicated to a crop sensor camera because it has a smaller circle of view than a full frame lens. It's going to have a larger circle of view. So a crop lens right away is a smaller lens, and it tends to be less expensive, not necessarily lower quality, just smaller. So it has a smaller circle of view because it doesn't need to give a greater circle of view. You have a smaller sensor in that camera. So if you were to put that crop lens on a full frame camera, look what happens. You're going to get this area shadowed out because the sensor inside the full frame camera is larger than that circle of view the lens is providing. If you are using a crop sensor camera and you have several lenses, it's possible that some of your lenses are crop lenses, some of them are full frame lenses, or you may have all full frame or all crop. You wouldn't know the difference looking through the viewfinder. So how do you know if you have a crop lens or not? Well, it's identified typically, depending on the brand, it'll be two letters that will identify it as a crop lens or as a full frame lens. So this being Tokina, they use the letters DX to identify this as a crop lens. The other issue that comes when you upgrade from a DSLR to a mirrorless camera is that you are going to be changing lens mount systems. It doesn't matter what brand you are using now and what you're upgrading to. Whatever lens you're using here on this DSLR camera is not going to work on that mirrorless camera. So as an example, this is a Sony DSLR that uses A mount for its lenses. That means that this A-mount lens is not going to fit on this mirrorless Sony, which is an E-mount. So what does that mean for you? What that means is, regardless of the brand you're switching to or switching from, you're going to need an adapter to attach to that camera so that you can attach your current lenses to that camera. So here's an example of an adapter that I purchased for my A-mount lenses. So this is an A-mount lens, and it can attach to the adapter on the A-mount side. And once I have that adapter on, then that means that I can put that lens on this mirrorless camera with the E-mount side. So the other function of this adapter is to be able to communicate the autofocus function of your lens with the camera. So you should be able to, with the adapter, be able to use autofocus on this camera just as well as your DSLR. Here's the thing with these adapters. It's a mixed bag of reviews out there. And you may find that this adapter might work very well with one particular lens, but maybe not with another lens. So I'm going to use my situation as an example to illustrate to you that your current lenses may not all work well, at least as far as the autofocus is concerned, on this new mirrorless camera. Okay, so my situation is this. I have a Sony crop sensor camera. It's the A707 II. I upgraded to the Sony A7R III. And this is a mirrorless full frame. This is a crop sensor. Now, I have 4 lenses that I use. I have 2 lenses that are Sony. I have 2 lenses that are third-party lenses. Then I have, among those, 2 lenses that are dedicated crop lenses. Every single one of the lenses will attach to this adapter, which allows me to put it on this mirrorless camera. Unfortunately, when I put this third-party lens on this mirrorless camera, I no longer have autofocus capability. The communication between the lens and the camera is not there through this adapter. The same is true with another third-party lens that I have. So, automatically, I have 2 lenses out of 4 lenses that are not going to allow me to use autofocus on this mirrorless camera. Can I still use the lens on the camera? I can, but I'm going to have to use manual focus. Now, my other 2 lenses are Sony lenses, and they work fine on this mirrorless camera. The adapter allows good communication between the lens and the camera, and I have full autofocus capability. Okay, so I have my 2 Sony that I can put on the mirrorless and have autofocus. Unfortunately, one of those lenses is a crop lens. Well, you already know what happens when you put a cropped lens on a full-frame camera. So what's interesting about this particular camera is that I have it set inside to automatically crop out what it does not capture outside of that circle of view from that crop lens. So when I shoot with that crop lens with this mirrorless camera, I'm getting exactly what I get when I shoot with this DSLR. So where does that leave me with this mirrorless camera? I have 4 A-mount lenses that I can use on this camera, but only one of them is full frame and has full autofocus capability. So I have 2 choices. I can buy another Sony A-mount lens and just simply use the adapter on this mirrorless camera, or for the same price I can get an E-mount lens and just attach it directly to the camera. So I did end up buying an E-mount lens, and the one that's attached here right now is 28 to 75 millimeters. So currently, with this camera, I have 28 to 75 millimeters with that lens, and I have 70 to 400 with this lens. If you're going to upgrade to a mirrorless camera, you need to go into this with open eyes, and you need to increase your budget for those added costs. If you want to use your current lenses, you're going to need an adapter to attach it to this mirrorless camera. If you find, like I did, that some of your lenses don't work with that adapter, in other words, the autofocus is not going to function when you have it attached to the mirrorless, you may be looking at having to buy an additional lens or 2. So as long as you know going in that you've got some added costs and you can budget all that in, buying a mirrorless camera can be a wonderful thing, and you're going to have a lot of fun.